Well, hello again everybody. This is another incredible route. This is in Wales, in Pembrokeshire. And if you don't know where that is, Wales is over on the west coast and you have to go right to the far end of it towards St David's. We're starting at Carew Castle. We're going to visit 3 castles. We go then sort of south-east a bit to Manorbia Castle, right on the coast, and then around past Freshwater Beach to Stackpole, and then up towards Pembroke Castle. So Carew, Manorbia and Pembroke are the 3 castles, and there's quite interesting beaches at Freshwater. Stackpole's more of a wonderful little village. That's the route we're going to take. We're going clockwise around this loop, and it can be fairly tough as you get nearer to the coast, and that's because there seems to be a range of hills. So all of that green part, which is National Park, is exceptionally hilly, so be ready for that. So lots of places to park, and down at Freshwater Beach there's also fresh water available as well as some toilets, so that's about halfway round. We're going to start at Carew Castle. Definitely worth starting. If you've got young kids or whatever, maybe this is a place to start. I wouldn't necessarily recommend the route for them, but Carew Castle, really interesting, lots to see. Parking is wonderful, and that's where we parked. It stays open, there's no way of locking you into that main part of the car park. And so we're going to head sort of east and then south, and you'll see the roads are extremely quiet. There's not a problem with the roads at all. We're heading off really from Carew Castle, and we're going to go down through a little sort of village called Sagaston, and then we head south. Now there is a little bit of time on one of the main roads that we've got here, so you just need to be a little bit careful there, but then we almost immediately leave it and we go to the quieter side roads. You see, the quality of the surface is really good, and there isn't really a problem with road surface at all, almost anywhere on this journey. The whole thing, essentially until we go down to the beach at Stackpole, is on tarmac. Some of the roads, the issues of the roads that might cause you a problem is the narrowness, and you can't always see over the hedges, and we found that was a bit of an issue with cycling in Pembrokeshire. The views are not always as spectacular as they could be because you literally can't see over these enormous hedges. We're heading down towards Manorbia. A little bit of time spent on this slightly larger road, but it's still not a main road. Notice there's no white lines or anything, and it's really a really quiet ride. Generally very few cars around, and these days a lot of the cars are battery, so you've just got to watch out and that they do come up really close. But road surface, you can see, is absolutely impeccable. And now we start to descend down towards the castle and towards the town. And now a little bit of time crossing that main road and then round the back routes. Now this really was narrow in places, and you need to be careful. There's a very steep decline down in towards the castle, but once you get there it's very interesting. There was lots to see. There are even some classic cars tucked away in a corner there. But a wonderful little village and worth spending some time at. But you can also see a view from this down in the car park at the seaside. So that's another place to stop. And you can see here where that little number 1 is. Just beyond that, there's a car park. You can see where that wiggly bit is. And so we're leaving the castle now and heading down really to the seafront. We stopped. We took this photo back up at the castle, and if you wanted to, you could go to the beach, or you can leave. Now we ascend up a really long hill, and all the way up there are these viewpoints, and the number of cars that are on them declines as we get further up the hill. And I think the reason for that is the walk down to the beach just gets too dangerous. So as you head up, there are fewer and fewer cars in these upper car park, so you could alternatively park up at the top. So we turn left and we're heading now along the coast, but we're coming inland. There is a coastal road, but we're coming inland a little bit so that we can head towards Stackpole. And some of these roads, the traffic is coming around the corner quite fast, and they're very narrow, as you can see. and there's a bit of climbing to do. But I said that is one of the issues with being on the coast here, is that there's climbing. But one of the great things about where there's a climb, there's often a better view than when it's flat. So we're now going to work our way up a long way to the top of the hill, and if you look at the terrain chart down at the bottom as we get into Stackpole, you'll see that the terrain chart just goes up and down almost continuously. But now we're dropping down really towards the coast, towards the sea. It's not Stackpole, rather, it's Freshwater Beach. And Freshwater Beach is another place where parking is not quite so easy, but it's a really nice beach, actually a really extensive beach. It goes a long way, and there's also water and toilets that can be had there. So we're now moving on, and we're heading off towards Stackpole, and we're going to come inland a bit from the coast road, simply because the coast road was a bit of a nightmare. And I must apologise here for forgetting to adjust the angle of the camera, and yeah, it was quite a long hill. I didn't really have my eyes fixed on what was going on as we work our way up the slope, and then of course we shoot back down again. And now we're heading out across the countryside, and this was quite peaceful really once you got away from the cars, and occasionally you would get a glimpse of the countryside around, particularly whenever you descend down towards the sea. So here we are heading towards Stackpole. Now, we spent a bit of time in going around Stackpole out this back way, but we didn't descend the sort of 25% slope because we knew we had to turn around and get back up again. So we departed, we got halfway down, and then we changed our mind and we cycled back out of the village and then headed up towards Pembrokeshire. Again, the roads are quiet. This is quite agricultural, this leg of the journey. You're going between farmers' fields quite a lot, and down through tiny little bits of the village, and there's woodland and quite a lot of shade as we go along. So I think it'll be a very different ride within the winter, but it was enjoyable in the summer here because the shade just gave us that bit of protection from the heat of the sun, which for Wales of course is usually very welcome. But here we are going through all the little back villages, and sometimes you can almost feel like you're completely lost because you're not quite sure what is around. And we were struggling up this bit of hill because we were so dry. We'd filled up our water bottles, but we needed to stop and actually have a bit of a drink, keep hydrated. Really important rule of cycling is to stay hydrated. And we climb up the hill, views of the coast, and eventually we start to get views in the distance of Pembrokeshire. Now we will have to start joining some larger roads as we get in towards it, and you'll see these roads are widening up as we drop down towards the outskirts of the town. There's a few junctions, and if you're not confident with cities, I would definitely recommend walking this bit. It's up and down very, very steeply. So we came round the back of the town, and then as we got nearer towards, we wanted to go up the castle, we decided that we were going to push. So we crossed the road here and then up this slope, and we essentially pushed our bike following our noses towards the castle. Occasionally get a glimpse of it above the roofs, and here we go. It was late in the day, so we didn't actually go into the castle, but again, it's another castle we've been in the past. Definitely worth a visit, and the town is not that bad actually. It's quite pretty in places. Lots of antiquity you can see around, staircases cut into the walls and things, and then you've got the castle views from across the water out here. And we saw something that was either an osprey passing or it was a white-tailed eagle. It was huge, and it dipped down into the water at one point, and then off it went. So we pushed away around this walkway along the other side of the water, and then you have to cross over a bridge when we get up here and down into the town, and then there was some roadworks going on and the town was almost completely static, but we headed our way up out of the town, pushing past the traffic as we went, a little bit on the pavement. Pretend you didn't see that one. And then eventually we get round the corner and we leave the traffic jam behind. They stick with their roadworks, and we head off through the edge of this estate, and then we're actually not that far from home. And just be careful in the later evening. We found, although it wasn't dark at this stage, it felt like it was getting darker, and there were people coming home from work, and some of the cars were going quite fast and didn't appear to be driven particularly well with respect to other road users. But we're now head back off towards Carew Castle, and again parts of it become very rural and then it opens up again, but the road is quite busy. Now this was a long hill that seemed to go on forever, and we built up quite a good line of traffic behind us at one point. As you can see, they're all streaming past, and then there were more waiting for us to come up. It is wide enough, but if you're less than confident on roads, just be aware that it's better to do this in the bright sunshine rather than in the early evening. So now we're really up the hill, and we're going to just traverse the countryside towards the top here. There's still a slight climb back towards Carew Castle. Past the windmills that were all static for some reason or other, and now we're in the final throes of the journey, a long descent down back underneath those pylons we saw earlier on. And then we have to join this larger road, but there is a cycle track beside it as we get towards Carew Castle. And we're going to turn right at this roundabout. So that's it. And work our way in back to the car park. So Three Castles Loop in Pembrokeshire, lots of places where you can park and lots of places where there are toilets. So be ready for that, and do give us this a like and a subscribe. We'd love to hear from you, and we look forward to seeing you on the next ride. I think we've probably got several more from Pembrokeshire, and I'm behind with my editing by about a year, so plenty more rides to come once the building work at home has finished. Thank you very much, and I will see you on the next ride. Bye for now.